Hi, I'm Lauren Larkin, host of Sancta Colloquia. And last minute decision, I decided to record some closing 2020 thoughts. I'm using the same form that I used last year. So the Enneagram today was something like, think of these four things, right? And using that structure, once again, let go of the past, connect with the self. Um, and to wake up and to be present. And so those are the four things that I'm working with here. And I thought it would be really great to kind of stay with that. And I'll probably do it in the future as well. I am also very dressed up right now, and I'm not apologizing for it. I actually just do this every so often. Just kidding, I don't. It takes a lot to kind of get all this hair wrapped up in a crown-like braided fashion. But I am on my way to our New Year's Eve plans, and my daughter has picked out my outfit, which was a formal dress. And so I have augmented with the appropriate makeup and jewelry and hairdo. So I am going to be matching her, sort of. But we thought that what she thought this dress would go best with hers. And well, you know, hashtag the OGBG. Um, she's my little buddy, so couldn't deny it. So anyway, so here I am, overdressed for a video. So there. Anyway, I think it kind of might a little bit get at who I am, sort of fancy, sitting in front of a library. But yeah, this might encapsulate it all. Anyway, so here it goes. So one of the first things that Enneagram talks about is letting go of the past. And this year was definitely a series of letting go of the past. Yes, there was a lot for me to let go this year. And that's exactly how this year started out, was with a rather sudden just need to rehaul everything and let go. Um, and it was radical in nature, and it would involve people and actions, in fact, and that specifically things that were I'm a big fan of being a long-term friend, or not letting good and bad determine, you know, our activity. But you know when there's something bad that's occurring. And so for me, there were things that were very unhealthy, and those came to light in a very radical and dramatic way at the very beginning of the year. And so I address them. I'm a theologian of the cross, which necessitates that I call a thing what it is. And so that's what I spent pretty much all of January doing. And so, but then also letting go of the year incorporated or demanded of me, letting go of things that and people that I loved. When we moved from deep South Louisiana to Grand Junction, to the western slope of Colorado. And so that was also very, very difficult to let go in love. Things that people that I needed to let go of so that I could address and do some other things. And the further letting go of people and things in the way of death and the transition into new life. This year, we all lost a lot of people, those in our inner circle and in our outer circles. I lost a beloved mentor who, when I moved to Louisiana and Lafayette, befriended me before I even knew who her name was, what her history was, who she was. And I grateful for the life and presence of Melinda Mangum. She taught me how to teach students. She taught me how to teach gifted students. And so experiencing her death was very hard for me, and something that I'm still impacted by. There were times where at the end of the semester, and she wasn't here anymore, or with us in this realm anymore. And I just wanted to say, oh, I need to tell Melinda. And then it would hit. I wanted to brag on my students, and I knew that I could always go to her to brag on them. So time will come when I'll be able to do that once again, if she doesn't already know. In all of it, there's been life that has surged in through what felt like cracks, but in my foundation. But I'm going to alter that and say that it wasn't actually love or life surging in through the cracks in my foundation, but actually my foundation had been radically deconstructed. And it was very much about my foundation being rebuilt through new life. And so I'm currently avoiding the sun that's trying to stream through. So that's what was very important in getting through this year, was realizing that I wasn't just building a new edifice on top of a fractured and cracked foundation, but that what had happened at the beginning of the year and what I spent the first like 5 months really processing through very extensive IFS therapy and working through with my therapist and just doing it all very, very sober, not and just facing and sitting where I was. I realized that my foundation was being rebuilt, which was absolutely essential, especially as we surge into what will be 2021. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to be that different, at least for the majority of the year. With that said, all of this rebuilding and foundation allowed me to reconnect with myself, or actually connect with myself. It's not only that I learned in radical ways that I'm enough, and that was something I sort of stressed last year. I think I'm sort of basing this off of my memory, but that my body knows stuff and that she's often right. And that was a big thing for me. So when I first started therapy about 3 years ago with this certain therapist, one of the things that she noticed immediately off the bat was this very big gap between thinking and feeling functions. This was specifically the reason why she didn't recommend something like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, because that's what I do every day. I override all of my emotions or feelings, and I'm over hyper analyzing why I'm feeling something, and then I proceed to act from thought rather than through mind. So part of what we did this year, really investing deeply into IFS therapy, was to reconnect the thinking with the feeling function. And so that was really important. And actually one of the most powerful things I experienced all year was this connection with myself. And so I sort of always talk about it in terms of, I was like this, and then everything kind of came into alignment. I'm trying to do it backwards and with wrong fingers, but everything came from this to this. Okay, alignment. No longer does that dichotomy between thinking, feeling, mind, and heart exist, or at least I'm aware of it when it does rear its head. And so it's been a lot of work, but it's been well worth it. I'm very grateful for that idea of actually allowing my feeling and my heart a room at the table and a voice too. So learning when not to do something because my body doesn't want to, it doesn't feel right. I feel nervous for some reason, so I don't want to go out tonight. Rather than normal, typical neural patterns for me, which would be, I'm going to override that with some thinking, it would be, I'm actually not going to move from this spot. We're just going to cancel plans. And so that would be something that I really benefited from. Or to do it because it does feel right. So, those urges to affirm someone, or those urges to, I'm going to say this thing even though it sounds crazy, when my brain doesn't necessarily understand the sensation or the feeling, it doesn't mean that the feeling's wrong. And that's where I lived for a lot of years. I'm not going to tell you how many, just way too many years living in this idea that if I don't understand it, then it's not valid. I think all the fives in the house just said, preach, because that is a problem for us. We deny our bodies in a great, great way. To honor my body by fighting for her was another big thing that I learned, that I am not going to just do something because I think I should do something, but that I'm actually going to defend my body. So if I don't want to do something because I'm not feeling that it's the right thing to do, or I'm not feeling safe in the situation, I learned how to advocate for myself. I've always been someone who can speak my mind, but not in defense of my body. And so bringing that together, using that ability to verbally advocate for my thoughts, I applied it to my body, and the ability to avoid and to address violent situations was really, really important. So being able to navigate a situation that was a little bit like a landmine, and using my body as a means by which I would read rooms or read people, was really essential for my ability to kind of maneuver through certain sticky situations. And I stopped sacrificing my body to violent people. That's a big thing. And I don't realize, or I didn't realize how often women do this. I understood it intellectually. And I don't necessarily think that I thought I did it, but we do. We put up with a lot of crap. And I was done with that this year. There are certain ways I should be treated, and there's certain ways that I want to be treated as a friend. If you're not doing that, then I'm sorry. I may love you, but just from a distance, because I have spent too many years putting myself in harm's way to make someone feel good about themselves. And that's not how this is happening anymore. So this has helped me to be a better friend, mother, partner, traveler with others along this road, because I am for once on my 2 feet and not standing on tippy toes, grasping for someone to approve of me or to love me, but to say that I love me, I'm advocating for myself. Those are 2 huge things. And therefore I don't have to be grasping desperately at what I considered to be love, which wasn't. We can misinterpret love. We can think one-sided relationships because of the drama are super fun, but they're not. We can think that just because someone does this and we know that they love them, then it's okay for them to do that. It's not. Not that you have to stop loving that person, but you can advocate for yourself and you can actually defend your body. I love myself, and that is my approval. I like me. And I think those are hard words for some of us to say. On the third aspect, so bleeding in from letting go of the past, which assisted with my connection of myself and bringing the thinking and the feeling into tighter unison, tighter relationship together. This helps me to wake up more, especially to the real pain in the world. So with sexism and racism and white supremacy, the violence in church and the violence in academia, narcissism everywhere, specifically in the church and in academia, it's just astounding. Having done some research into it, it's astounding how prevalent it is. And fighting for those who need to be fought for, or giving platforms for people who are fighting, or assisting and nourishing and finding ways that I can walk alongside people who are fighting. And that's the big one. No longer perpetually defeated and exhausted by hunting down destructive and erratic sources of love, and turning toward a healthy love of self means I have the energy to fight and the stamina to stay. Now, this is important because waking up to the need to fight means that one of the things I had to address was if I was going to stay in the church or not. I can't say that I've had super great experiences in the church as a woman, as an ordained woman. Plenty throughout my past, plenty of experiences pointing to just how exhausted I am with having to defend my right to be at the table or in the pulpit or whatever it is as an authority. I am working on my doctorate. So at one point I am going to be a reverend doctor. I will be a doctor of the church. I'm also a cleric of the church. So you get exhausted fighting. And so one of the things that I was considering was just ditching the whole entire thing. Why bother? But when one is aligned and one is let go of baggage or garbage that has been, weighing one down, and has the energy now to reconnect with the self, there is this stamina of, wait, maybe I should stay and fight, or maybe I should do it right, or the way that I think it should be done. I didn't learn church. I didn't leave the church after some bad experiences. I turned those things into something substantial and good too, because I got called to lead. And so that was something that was really surprising to me in terms of this kind of waking up and fighting and finding the stamina to stay, was this simultaneous call to be a priest in charge. And I remember when the bishop called me and she said, "Oh, Nativity wants you to be their priest in charge." And I go, "That is amazing and astounding." And she goes, "Is that a yes?" And I was like, that's my way of saying yes. I can't still, I'm still humbled by the call in a great way, because I just never thought that a congregation would necessarily see in me what it was to be a leader in the church. And they saw something and they called, and I said yes. And that is something that has been really instrumental. So using whatever anger I have in a constructive way. So anger, I'm not afraid of anger, but I do know that anger can be destructive and it can be constructive, and what direction you take anger in is actually really crucial. And so I have found that I have wanted to take my anger in a constructive way, and build something that would address the things that I endured, right? So one of my very wise friends, the Reverend Dr. Raymond Carr, once said to me that when you experience oppression, you become you understand the oppression of others. You step into solidarity in oppression with others. And I really felt that. And so now what can I do to build in a way that this place, this little building on a road in Colorado, can be a place of the kingdom of God, manifests through proclamation and teaching and preaching and faithful encounter with God in the event of faith. How can that structure now become a place that understands the deepness of oppression that marginalized people suffer? And so this demands another aspect, and this is the fourth aspect, that I'm present, right? So to be present, going into 2021 will demand of me some different version of presence. No, I don't mean like waking up tomorrow morning. I mean, that's a given. There'll be kids that need things, and I will have to be fine-tuning a sermon that is a little bit interesting. Anyway, I'm having fun with it. But I do need to be present. And that was something that was drilled home. In one way that I warded off the threat of the abyss of chaos, of losing time in being a quarantine, was this presence in everyday things. And literally my family was able to sort of know what day it was based off of what workout I was doing or where I was at, what hour it was in the day based of where I was. And so being really consistent, I hate to say it, but my J really came out nice and strong, very INTJ-ish this past year. And that is good. I was a stable force in the family. And so I was happy to be that, to create that consistency. And even when we didn't want it and we just wanted to kind of throw everything to the dogs, and we have a dog now, so I can actually throw some things to the dog. And the dog can't eat the homework. So this is going to be a fun semester for us coming up. But anyway, being present, I'm not trying to, I am present. And that's what 2020 drilled home. So I'm going into 2021 feeling very in my body, in my flesh, aligned with sort of a very healthy relationship with how I want to be related to and how I want to relate to other people. And so being present in my relationships, being present with myself, being present in my studies, being present with my congregation, being present in a sermon, being present wherever it is, being present, being holy, Lauren. And I'm not saying perfect, good, but not perfect. There's a big distinction there. I make mistakes, but I can be wholly present in those errors. And actually being wholly present in those errors allows me to seek forgiveness or to say that I was wrong, because I'm not fractured in a way that necessitates that I have to be right, because God forbid I lose my identity, and because I have to be right. So that presence permeating the physical, the mental, and the emotional practices that I've implemented. And so that's something that's been really crucial as well. In being present, we do need to practice presence, because I don't think we, in our culture, with the philosophies and ideologies and practices that we participate in our Western American culture, especially as those of us who are not of the powerful group, we need to practice presence that necessitates a wokeness and I don't mean that in like sort of the colloquialism, but like the actual, like Justin Michael Williams's understanding of being woke, like being awake and alive, and in the process of letting go of the past and concerning with and being concerned and connecting with the self. We need to practice that. And one of the things that I have done is implement a few things that have helped me to practice that presence in being present. And so I highly recommend those things. So the year's been hard, and it hasn't been easy. It's been a lot of fortitude, a lot of sort of can do, a lot of just honest, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to. There was I'm not saying that in terms of like the laws condemning and now I have to find my validation by obeying this law. I'm saying it in the terms of that the law actually provided a lot of structure, and there were things that we could do on a regular basis that reminded us where we are. So it's been hard, and I know that you know that. There are people I miss dearly, very, very dearly, who are not in my life right now, but I'm not afraid of being sad. And so being present in my emotions actually makes me a better person in the world, just because I'm not afraid of those emotions. I don't have to shush them or quiet them in myself. And so I don't have to shush them or quiet them in someone else. I know I can love and leave. I'm not afraid of love, and that we might have to leave sometimes. That is really powerful, because I think sometimes we hesitate to invest ourselves in love and intimacy in the variety and manifold ways that we express love and intimacy as complicated creatures. It's not so clear as I love and I'm intimate with the person that I'm married to. It's actually, there's a form of intimacy between me and my children. There's a form of intimacy between me and my sister-in-law. There's a form of intimacy between me and my friend. There's so there's all these different forms. And so allowing yourself to invest with the knowledge that you may leave, or one may leave, whether that's death or a traumatic incident or a fight or whatever it is, but that is possible. Don't be not being afraid to love. I know I can be angry and productive, which is what I said earlier. I'm not afraid of anger. I know I can have joy and peace even when the plates are shifting underneath my feet. I'm not afraid to stand when things are shaking. And that's something I think that rounds out the year really, really well for me. Not being afraid to stand while the plates are shifting underneath me, and understanding that the thing that I'm standing on is solid. I've gotten a lot out of yoga and meditation. Those are the two practices that I've done, both physical, mental, and spiritual and emotional, that have helped me to be present. And sometimes when I'm sitting on my cushion outside and it's like 3 degrees out, or I'm in a yoga pose, feeling the earth push back and being reminded that I do sometimes feel I am alone or unsupported, but I'm not unsupported, because I am pushing against, or terra firma is pushing against me, reminding me that I'm not alone, and that there have been others that have stood before me in this very spot. I'm happy, but I'm not always happy, because that would be inhuman, but I am present. And I think that there's a joy, a deep delight in that. I'm here, and I do love deeply, even when there's pain. And so these are things that I'm sort of taking out of 2020. I think this will affect my scholarship, my pastoral sensibilities, my priesting, my priestessing, my leadership, my presence as a mother and as a partner and as a friend, and as a fellow traveler. I'm grateful for this journey. 2020 has been hard, as I've said, and we all know it, but I am grateful for it. I have learned so much this year about myself, and I'm grateful for my growth. And that's something that's, I think most of us who have made it to December 31st of 2020, or whatever day of March it is, we should be ecstatic that we made it this far. We have lost a lot of people on the way, people who we did not have to lose due to poor leadership and government guidance. And so it's time to turn that around. And I'm grateful for you. My audience, my people who listen, people who said that they wanted to hear me give these last end of the year thoughts. I'm very grateful for you, and I'm glad you're here, and thanks for walking with me. You are the beloved, and I love and adore you to a great extent. Thanks for listening.